Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Vibhav, and I'm the Product Marketing Manager for Zoho CRM. And today I will take you through the new features that we released on the 28th of February this year. We will start the presentation shortly, but we are expecting more attendees to join. So if we can just wait a few minutes, that'll be great. Before we begin, I'd like to state that after this presentation, we will send you a recording of this webinar along with a copy of the presentation. And you will also get a chance to try all the new features, even though you're not a part of that edition. So if I can say, some features will be a part of the enterprise edition, and even if you are in the standard edition, let's say, you can try these out, and you can always use the chat box to just keep asking us questions, and we will keep responding them to you as we speak. Our support team is on this, so please feel free to type all your questions in the chat box. It's been a whole 7 months since our last release from July 2016, where we brought to you a revolutionary new user interface along with features like advanced customization using page layouts, gamification, and innovations like Sales Inbox, which is a dedicated email client for salespeople. Through these 7 months, we have been working really hard to bring you these latest features, which we believe will go a long way in helping you sell smarter, better, and faster. Needless to say, please feel free to tweet about us and share your thoughts. If you're happy joining this webinar, please let your friends know, and maybe you can invite some of them to join in as well. You can tweet using our Twitter handle at Zoho CRM. Firstly, let's begin with selling smarter. Normally, you might say that a CRM is, in fact, an acting assistant to a sales rep. But is this assistant smart enough? And it is here that being smart can make all the difference. Now, Zia is an AI powered sales assistant for Zoho CRM that can provide you interpretations, solutions, and predictions for salespeople. So you can find out when it's the best time to contact a certain lead. So, normally, when you contact your leads, when do you do that? Do you know which is a specifically important time, or any certain time that can guarantee a response, or which can help you get a better response? That is what Zia does. And how this works is what I will cover in further detail in the demo part. You can also have macro suggestions. So when I'm repeatedly running a certain macro for a specific set of leads, Zia suggests this macro again, so that I don't have to go all over creating that macro again. Again, most of you salespeople would follow trends closely, I'm very sure. Let's say if you are generally closing about $10,000 in the third week of every month, and this time, however, you've closed only about 7,000, which means that's about 3K lower. And Zia identifies this deviation from your trend and marks this as an anomaly. So as you can see here on the screen, the amber line shows you the trend versus the blue line shows you the actual deal closure, and the red dot is the one that signifies your anomaly. So that was about selling smarter. Let me now tell you how you can sell better. The first thing to sell better is a great sales process, and that is what Blueprint helps you do. Most of you, when you were maybe a smaller sales team, when you started off, when your teams were much smaller in size, I guess it was quite easy to maintain a certain degree of control, compliance, and quality with a smaller team. But what happens as you scale, as you become a 20 people team, a 30 people team? How about a sales team with 50 people? How do you still ensure the same degree of compliance and quality irrespective of scale? The key is to have a foolproof and a picture perfect sales process. That is where we bring you Blueprint. So you can create sales processes your way, the way you like it, and the way you feel it needs to be. So here in the screen that you can see, uh, we've shown you a sample sales process, which is what the Blueprint editor would look like. Again, we will cover this in further detail in the demo part. One of the most important things here with Blueprint is that you can ensure certain conditions are met and make sure that there is a degree of compliance. If you want the discount to be below a certain number, you can specify that. If you want the closing date to be within a certain interval, you can specify that. Another very interesting feature with Blueprint is that you have built-in reports and dashboards where you can analyze the performance of your blueprint and understand how it is performing with charts like average time per state as well as average time that your blueprint is taking. So that was about Blueprint. I'm sure most of you know about Slack. You know it as one of the best team collaboration tools out there. But then sales is teamwork, right? Can Slack help you sell better? Yes, it can, provided it's integrated with Zoho CRM, which is what we have done. We have integrated Slack with Zoho CRM. So now you can share records or dashboard charts from Zoho CRM to users and channels in Slack. You can also notify everyone in your team on any sales update like deal wins or if you've just come across a hot prospect. And you can also get reminders in Slack for all the activities of your Zoho CRM calendar. So there's no more being worried about missing calendar appointments or tasks now. I'm sure many of you would be users of Office 365 for your productivity and other Office applications. We have integrated Zoho CRM with Office 365 in order to make your operations much easier and bring your sales on board and in sync with the rest of the O365 systems that you're using. So now you can integrate Zoho CRM with Office 365 to sync users, contacts, as well as calendars. So that was about Office 365. We now come to scoring rules. Scoring rules can help you quantify and assign a certain number and rank your leads. Normally, your leads and all the other records are actually a laundry list of information. But do you know which one to prioritize? Do you know which one to pick first? And do you know which ones are more important? That is what scoring rules helps you do. So you can define the rules, you can make scoring more effective by assigning certain criteria. That is, if you think that the lead status should be pre-qualified, and if a pre-qualified lead is or has a higher chance of conversion, then you can give it a higher score. And as you can see, for all these criteria here, you can add or subtract certain set of points between 1 to 10 for each criteria, and you can use different criteria in tandem, so it's a multiple criteria approach here. Again, we will cover this in further detail in the demo part. Not just lead parameters, but you can also rank these based on other categories like email insights, or if one of your customers has taken a customer survey and if you feel that they are more interested and you need to concentrate your time and energy on them, you can do that as well. With this release, we have brought forth about 14 new telephony integrations. Now, for those of you out there who still rely on making telephone calls for all your sales deals, because all said and done, it's a much more personal way of interacting with customers and prospects than email. So, for those of you who depend on that, we have 14 new additions to our call management solution set. So, you can now choose from Jive, AT&T, Office at Hand, and all the others that you are seeing here are the new additions to our call management solution set. So, that was about selling better. We all love speed, don't we? All of us like to close more deals in less time. So let's go to see how we do that. We begin with conditional fields here. A precursor to this would be page layouts, which we introduced in July last year for customization. Now, this is a step further to that by bringing you conditional fields. What it can do to you is that it can simplify form fills and make your interface much clutter free. So this is a brief screen of the editor using which you can assign the conditional fields. Again, I will cover this in much more detail using the demo section. And here there is sales signals platform. Now, we introduced sales signals to you last July, where you get real-time updates, notifications, and signals from all customer touchpoints like social media, email, and telephone. We are taking that game further by integrating sales signals with all your third-party apps that you might use, like Zendesk, MailChimp, SurveyMonkey, and all the others that you see here. Another important point here is we have released the API for sales signals. Now you can take this API, integrate it with any, and believe me, any third-party app out there, with obviously a supporting API, of course, and you can integrate it to get real-time sales signals in your CRM from whichever app there is. So let's quickly move to the demo portion now and see what these new features can do for you. We begin with Blueprint. Normally, what is the biggest challenge of any CRM implementation? Think of it. Users usually do not fill the necessary information, so companies do not get the right insights about their customers. And all of us face it, because filling in all that information is not a very encouraging task to do. And why are the users not filling these information? Because we don't think you can hold your salespeople or the CRM user to fault. It is the CRM's fault, and that is what we want to change. Blueprint can help you set the sequence of your work, and gather all the information contextually, and set a certain degree of compliance for your team, along with automating all the actions that need to happen. In this demo, we will see how Blueprint can help you close a deal through a process. So first, in order to do that, let's see how a deal can be created without Blueprint now. Call it New Widget Standard. which closes at the end of this month. The stage is new, and there you see I have created a new deal, and you see that the stage is new. Let's say I have spoken to this prospect over phone, so I am free to change the stage of this deal to a contract one. Maybe set it at $5,000. I save it, so there's no condition, and the contract is one, right? But what happens after that? Let's say I want to revert it. I want to go back. I can get it back to negotiation done and save it. Or from negotiation done, I can again go back to contract lost and save it. So I can pretty much run it everywhere, here and there. But that's the point. Shouldn't we exercise a certain degree of compliance and systematic nature here? Because as a salesperson, if I'm allowed to change these stages, what information does the sales admin or the sales manager have on this specific deal? They don't, right? Let's now look at how it happens using Blueprint. Again, I go to creating a new deal, only this time I say new widget blueprint. I'm giving it a closing date, and the stage of the deal is new. If you would have noticed, I can no longer edit the stage of this deal. It still stays in new. And you might have noticed the addition of this band that has the current state as new, and the transitions are either qualify or lost. So I can either lose this deal or qualify this deal. Let's say I choose to qualify it and go ahead. Now I need to specify the number of users. I have to give a note. Let's say, let me give, and let me not give it a note. So it says no, note cannot be empty. Now it's throwing me an error saying closing date should not exceed 90 days after qualification. So I need to roll back the timeline. Now I save it, and then the stage moves to being qualified now. Let's say I negotiate the deal. If my customer is asking me for a certain discount, they're asking me for 30% discount. I say discount given. It says no. Again, I have an error throwing up. It says closing date cannot exceed 30 days when a deal is negotiated. So I need to go back, roll back the date, and discount cannot be greater than 25. So I'm not free to give any discount I like. So I've edited that. So I have a choice to either approve or reject. I think 25% is too high a discount. We don't often do that, do we? So we do the reject. Say discount is too high. So now the stage has moved to discount rejected. So I can again lose the deal or renegotiate it. Let's say I give them a better discount this time. Maybe I go for 15% and say reduced discount. And yes, so now I approve it and say discount accepted. So I've accepted that level of discount, and the stage has moved to the discount being approved. So now I have two choices. whether to send them the contract or to lose this deal entirely. So now let me send the contract. Let's say we sign it for a year from the 30th of March 2017 to 18, and I have to assign it to I have to send it to a signing authority. I've given the signing authority and say contract sent, and I save that. And what you can see here is compare these two processes, how we did it the first time around and how it has happened now. Now when you see, you have, I know it has taken more time and it has been a longer exercise to do, but then you have a record of everything that has happened. You see, I have a note where at each stage I know why that stage has moved, why this lead has gone through this process. I have a record of all the interactions that have happened. So 2 years from now, if I have to come back and look at this deal, I know exactly why I won this deal or why I might have lost this deal. Now that you've seen the difference that Blueprint can do to you, let's go look at how you can configure Blueprint. So under setup, under automation, you have Blueprint. Now Blueprint can be used for pretty much all the modules, but in this case, we will take the example of deals, and let's create a new blueprint, call it widget blueprint. You can assign it for any of the layout, and I can choose whichever are my pick list values from the field. So here I take the field, I take the stage. Again, I can define the criteria for which blueprint has to be enabled. Now by default, I want this for all, so I will leave this as blank. For those of you who might use call scripting, you can do that under the advanced configuration section here, but we will not cover that in today's demo. The screen that you see now is the simple drag and drop editor to create the sales process. Let me just show you how that happens. So I start with a new deal from qualified to, so I qualify this deal. So I either approve a discount or reject a discount, post which I send a contract which I can win or I can lose. Just like a simple flow chart, you have to map each of these stages. So when I've rejected the discount, I have a choice to renegotiate it. So I link it back. So this is what your sales process would look like in a visual fashion, that is. So when I begin to, these plus symbols that you see are the names of my transitions, the intermittent actions, that is. So this is the lead qualification. So these are depicted by these yellow rhombus shaped blocks here. Now as you can see, the transitions have a before, during and after option here. So before it begins, I can choose who is the record owner, and also assign it to a role or a group that can go through this qualification. Now, if I want to make sure that only the CEO has to qualify, I'm not sure that will be the case. I think this will be a better example with a discount approval or something like that. But just to show you, you can pretty much define who sees this transition. And during, that is when this transition occurs, so I can make a note as a mandatory point here, and I can add a field that says closing date, for example. If I have to say, and I can enter the validation, that is, if my closing date has to be lower than 90 days. If you remember, that was one of the errors that showed when I tried to enter a very large closing date. Should be less than 90 days. So this is one condition. So I have set this. Now after that, here, let's say I qualify the lead. I'm sorry, this is the negotiate stage. So during the negotiate process, if you remember, we saw a certain check that said after negotiation is done, the deal should close within 30 days. Again, due should be less than or equal to 30. It says so this is the error message that I type in here that would have come out in red over there. And when I'm negotiating, I can add the maximum discount here. And if I want the discount to be less than or equal to 25%, discount can't exceed 25%. So there, I've added this condition here. Approve, and here it's reject, and here I go in for a renegotiation. So I can pretty much set the conditions again, whatever we've discussed. That is, I can say that the discount should be less than 25%. I enforce it. So there you see, I've added a discount field, and also when I'm renegotiating, I can make sure that, well, let's do that for approval. If I want this all discount approvals to go through necessarily the CEO, I can remove the record owner and make sure every discount that is given will need to be approved by the CEO. So if you want to personally maintain a check over the amount of discount that is being given, you can do that as well. So this is a transition that's winning me the deal, while this is the one where I lose the deal. Now you might think, why do I have to come this way down into the sales process when you lose the deal? I mean, you can lose it pretty much from the qualification stage, right? So how do you bypass all this and go straight to a last stage? You can do that using this common transition here. And now you see in green, all of them got mapped. It's marked to you in blue. So that means you can pretty much go to the last stage from any stage here, which is why, if you might remember a few minutes ago when we covered the normal sales process versus the process using Blueprint, you would have seen the last button appearing across every stage. And that happened because we set this last as a common transition here. What you can also do with transitions is, after it finishes, or when you won the contract, or let me add one more here that says, sorry, this is a send contract. And while sending the contract, pretty much similar to workflows, I can automate a certain set of actions. That is, if I want some email alerts, let's say I want the deal owner and the deal owner's manager to receive an email, I can pretty much select a template. In this case, I've selected a contract signing template. Sorry. So that is email for contract. So that's the action that I've automated. And so there you see, on an email alert, I have an email for contract, which I have automated here. Now, when I was sending the contract, you would have seen a contract to and a from. That was mapped because of this. So that is a contract from, where I put that validation. Let's say a contract cannot be created within 7 days after this deal is finished. So I say due date, the due is greater than or equal to 7 days. So contract should begin after 7 days. I can do that as well. And pretty much similar to that, I can assign a signing authority or the contract to date. Now with the to, if you say I do not want the contract period to exceed 1 year, so I can say, let me say 366 days, and says less than or equal to, contract can't be done for more than 1 year, because I want to put a check that only 1 year contracts are signed. So I can do that as well. So that was a comprehensive look into Blueprint. Let me now move into conditional fields. Before that, let me disable the conditions I have set, so you can compare it and see how a normal layout versus the one with conditional fields looks like. So let's take the case if I am an insurance company here. I go to creating an insurance layout. There. That's a lot of information to fill. Right from vehicle information to family information to travel to payment, it's a lot. If you are a salesperson who's dealing with insurance, and if you're talking to a prospect who's interested in health insurance, why would you want to see this vehicle information there? It's not even relevant to you. And also, when you see all this, I doubt if it's really interesting. It's not really motivating to help you type out all this information, is it? Then the key here is to simplify this layout. You should only see the fields that are necessary. If you have a prospect that you are dealing with for health insurance, you should only be able to see the family information and payment details. So how can you let that happen? So let me go to module customization and enable the ones I have just that I disabled a short while ago. So I enable these. We go back to insurance now and you'll see the difference. There. All I see is these four fields. I don't see anything more, unlike the last time. So I'm talking to a prospect that's interested in health insurance. So I select health insurance. Now I see marital status and dependents and payment details. Let's say I'm single. There's nothing that changes. Let's say I'm married. Now I have to enter the name of my spouse and the wedding date. So the name of the spouse and the wedding date were dependent on what value I filled here. At the same time, if I have a vehicle insurance, now the vehicle information comes in. So you see, what you see is dependent on this field here. That is the insurance type. That's the one that governs the next sections and the fields that come in. So let's now go to seeing how you can create this. Let me delete the older rules so I can create them from scratch for you. So this is where I create a new layout rule. Say insurance type, and this is the primary field, that is, which is the field that governs the next set of actions. I say insurance type is health. So the condition is that the insurance type is health, and the action I trigger is to show the section of family information as well as payment details. So I can enter multiple criteria here. So I save that, and if the insurance type is travel, then I show the section of travel information as well as payment details of my insurance type is vehicle insurance. I show the vehicle information and payment details. So there. That was the process of creating these conditional fields. Let me add one more. So now we saw how you could add a section based on a dependent field. Let's now see how you can add a field based on a dependent field. So now I say so the primary field here will be marital status. That is, if the marital status is married, then show a field. And which is that field? Marriage date and the name of my spouse. So there, that's enabled. Now that these two conditions are active, let me again go back to the insurance section and show you what difference that made there. Simple fields, just for, and things change based on what input you give here. You type vehicle, you see the vehicle details. You type health, you see family details. you see travel details. That's how simple it is with conditional fields. Let's now move to the next feature, that is scoring rules. All these are your leads, right? You get them through different sources, different medium of communication. They're at different stages. Some might be potent, some might not be. Some can have a better chance of conversion, some can have a lower chance of conversion. But the fact remains that you still have only 24 hours a day and 30 days a month. So taking that into consideration, how can you pick up the most credible leads, or how can you prioritize your time with your leads? Of course, you can use advanced filters and say, filter it by lead source. But you can't do that every single time. The key here is to give it a certain number or to quantify your leads. Look at it this way. I've entered a lead score. Let's say I want to find leads with a score greater than 10. There I have 2 leads. So Brianna has a score of 15. So I know that these 2 leads are more credible and I need to follow up on these before I go to the others. Now, how have they got that score? Let me show that to you. So you go under setup, under automation, you can go to scoring rules. There. So you see, all these are the list of conditions that you can set. Let me just delete a couple. So if I'm dealing with the healthcare industry, and if I feel healthcare leads are more credible than the others, I can choose to add 5 points here for all the leads with the industry as healthcare. Or if I want to concentrate on a larger deal where only with revenue, I deal only with companies that have revenue greater than 50K. So I can do that as well. And just like you can add a lead, you can subtract a lead as well. So if someone has spent more time on your site, you can add points. And if if this lead is too small for you to follow, you can subtract a point. Let me add one of those conditions here. Let's say I want to focus only on leads that I assign a specific country, and if I say the leads from the US get a score of 5, I can do that. Or if I say so if lead status is a junk lead, then subtract 10 points. You don't really want to spend time on junk leads, do you? So that's added as well. The button that you see here that says run scoring rules for all records, that means you can go back 6 months, rewind your time 6 months, and overwrite whatever conditions they had with all these new conditions. All these 10 conditions will overwrite your older condition, and that goes back for a period of 6 months. And not just these details, you can also add a score for the email insights. That is, for every email opened, you can add a certain score, or for every email bounced, you can subtract a score. And if any of your customers choose to participate in any customer survey, then you can add a certain score to it. So that was about lead scoring. Let's now go to ZR. As I was explaining earlier in the presentation, Zia is an intelligent sales assistant that can give you predictions, analysis, and a lot of other information. First, we'll cover trend analysis with Zia. If you notice here, pick another one. So if you see the lead creation trend here, in this chart, the amber line signifies the trend versus the blue signifies your actual. So if you notice in the second week of February, the trend suggested 51 deals while the actual was 50. So the deviation is one deal. I mean, maybe that's an acceptable number. So pretty close. So it's this time it's 50 versus 49, again one. That's fine, quite close. If you come to week 4, you see that the trend is 48 versus the actual is only 31. So that's a deviation of almost 17 deals. I don't think that's a nice thing, which is why there has been a clear difference marked, and here you have a red dot, which means it is an anomaly. This can help you identify wherever there is a large trend deviation so that you can immediately fix it. So that was about trend analysis and anomaly detection. When we were talking about scoring rules, we were talking about a lot of leads and how you classify them and how you prioritize them. Another thing important with leads is when do you contact them. There's you have all the time you have in the day, but there is a specific time when each contact might respond better than any other time. That is, everyone is more active at a certain time, right? So what Zia does is based on your previous inputs, that is based on previous calls or emails, Zia learns and understands which is the right time for you to reach each contact. So if I have to reach Kensington, that is the right time for me to do that is 9:30 p.m. And why is that happening? Because yes, I would have reached out to them with calls around that time in the past, which is why it is showing me this best time to contact. What this means for you is that you ensure lesser time on wasteful calls. That is, you might normally call somebody and not get a very good response from them, which will not happen now, and you can email them at the right time, so you ensure a better response rate. What Zia also does is gives you predictions on running your macros. That is, I've selected 3 leads here. Let's say I want to run a macro to them. I go to create macro, and there you see this box that says suggested macros. So now within these suggested macros, I have these 2 suggestions that have come here, which is either I make a task that says call back in 2 days, or I choose to send them a letter. Why am I being shown these 2 suggestions? Because I have run these macros for these set of leads in the past, or rather a similar set of leads in the past, which is why Zia is learning and asking me if I want to use the same macro again. This makes me spend lesser time on creating a macro from scratch. You can either choose this or again go create a macro from scratch anyway. So that was about Zia, and with this we come to an end of the demo. Let me quickly go back to the presentation. So a brief summary of what we covered. That was, first we started with Zia, your AI powered sales assistant. Then we went to Blueprint, that can help you create your own sales process. We spoke of integrations with Slack, Office 365, and the new telephony integrations. We then spoke of how to prioritize your leads better using scoring rules. We also spoke about Sales Signals platform where you can get real-time updates and signals from any third-party app. And we saw how you can simplify your CRM to a much clutter-free and faster experience by using conditional fields. So these are the features by edition. That is, Blueprint will be available for Enterprise Edition and above, while the same with conditional fields and Zia, all of them will be with Enterprise and above. But conditional fields and Zia are marked in amber. That means they will be unveiled in a phased manner. So there might be a small percentage of you out there who might not have access to this till date. Please don't worry, you will get that very soon. Now, scoring rules is there for all paid editions from standard and above. Sales Signals platform is available for all editions, including our free plan. Telephony integrations, Slack, and Office 365 integration is available for all paid editions. Again, if you need answers to any of your questions, if you need something explained in further detail, please use the chat box. And we have been answering your questions over the past 45 minutes or so that we started this webinar. And we will be doing this as long as there are questions that are coming. Let's just cover a brief set of FAQs on these new features. So how do I activate Zia? Well, Zia doesn't need to be activated specifically. Anyone with an enterprise edition of Zoho CRM can access these features. It's not like you have to toggle a certain button. How does Zia provide suggestions? Well, if you might remember the proverb, as you sow, so do you reap. Whatever are your actions within the CRM, Zia learns from that and comes up with suggestions. So it is natural that if you would have started using your CRM just now, you might not see a suggestion because you should leave Zia some time to understand your usage pattern. A certain example could be macros need to be enabled 3 times or more. What can the best time to contact be used for? You can use this best time to contact for emails and calls. Coming to Blueprint, why is a new Blueprint's status marked as inactive? Well, a blueprint actually affects all your users and your sales process, so it is a crucial decision to enable it or not, which is why we keep it in the inactive status. Should you want to do it, you can consciously take that decision and move it into active status. What is a common transition for blueprints? As I showed you the last deal in blue, that is what a common transition is. That means that you can lose a deal right from the qualification stage. Now, when you've lost that deal while qualifying it, you needn't go all the way down and go through all that process to lose it. You can directly click on the lost button, which is why when we were looking at the new sales process using Blueprint, you would have noticed the button that says lost across all stages. And what happens when a new deal is created further down the stage list? Let's say around contract sent. If it's created further down the stage list, then yes, the process will start from there. So we let users create deals from any stage that they deem is required. Can Blueprint trigger workflow automations? Well, no, you cannot trigger workflow automations, but you can configure a set of actions like sending an email or putting up a task. And yes, what happens when you have that occasional sale that completes immediately? Of course, deals closed faster are good news, and we don't have any problem with that. What you can do is you can have the deal 1 as a common transition so that you can allow closing deals faster from all states, so that salespeople don't waste time in going through all the stages. And how many common transitions can we have? Well, this is a tricky part because currently we allow only a single common transition. That is, you could either have lost or won. And we are working on it, so you can expect more common transitions in the time to come. Moving to conditional fields. Are conditional fields dependent on custom functions and do they affect their use? No, they do not. They are independent. And can conditional fields be based on CRM users? That is, can you map it based on your user profiles? No, you cannot do that. Once you enable a conditional field, it is enabled for all users. And will conditional fields work on web forms? We know this is a really important feature. We know it can be very, very useful. Not right now, but that said, we have already begun working on it, and you can see some updates on this soon. And if you create mandatory fields, will it affect any of the forms? Yes. Mandatory conditional fields will be treated as the module's mandatory fields. And one more question that says, which modules are the conditional fields available for? They are available for all modules, including the custom modules that you create. And with scoring rules, can you manually override the points added or deducted to a score? No, you cannot edit these manually. You have to go back to the page where you set the conditions and then change the score assigned to each. You cannot manually override them. So that was where we covered some frequently asked questions about these new features. Please feel free to share your feedback on Twitter using the Zoho handle, that is at Zoho CRM. Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Did you not like it? Do you need any more information? How can we help you? Any which way possible, please tweet about it. Again, thank you for listening. You can always send us your support queries at support@zohocrm.com, and you can please keep asking us your questions in the chat boxes, and we will keep responding to you. In fact, we are doing that right now as we speak. So we will hold on for a while till all the questions are answered.